Welcome to the Texas Wine Scene Podcast, the most up-to-date information to help you prepare for your wine tasting weekend. I'm Mike, your Texas Wine Scene correspondent, bringing you all the wine happenings in and around the great state of Texas, from the high plains to the hill country. If you love Texas wine, you've come to the right place. Let's take a trip. Welcome back, everyone, to the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. I am your host, your Texas Wine Scene correspondent, Mike Cole, bringing you all the wine happenings in and around the great state of Texas. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend the Texas Wine Growers tasting at the Lakeside Pavilion in Marble Falls, Texas, where several of the organization's member wineries were serving up some of their current wine selections. This walk-around tasting event included a delicious charcuterie grazing table and provided the opportunity to sample wines from some top-notch wineries. I caught up with a couple of the winery representatives and consumers to talk about their wine and the wine event. Here are those conversations. Thank you for joining us here on the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. I am your host, your Texas Wine Scene correspondent, Mike Cole, bringing you all the wine happenings in and around the great state of Texas. We are here in Marble Falls at the Texas Wine Growers wine tasting. I'm here with a young man who's going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the Texas Wine Growers.
How you doing, Mike? I'm John Rivenburgh. I am the current president of Texas Wine Growers Organization. I'm a 20-year veteran of the Texas wine industry. We also own Kerrville Hills Winery and Rivenburgh Wine. But today we're here pouring some great wines along with some other really great producers. Texas Wine Growers is the first and only organization founded to protect and promote the terroir and authenticity around Texas wine. So all things Texas wine. If you're growing it, you're making it, we want to support you and we want to push you forward in every endeavor that you're doing. Texas Wine Growers was started by some of my really good buddies. One of them whom just walked up. It's
Mr. Chris Brundrett.
Mr. Chris Brundrett. So Chris Brundrett, Ben Calais, Doug Lewis, Alan Fetty, Carl Money, some of the guys who all founded this organization. I'm happy as can be to be part of what they're doing. And they've tapped me to come in and be part of this movement a couple of years ago. I've worked diligently over the years around promoting and developing Texas wines, and so I'm happy as could be to be part of an organization that is working diligently to bring new AVAs, bring new varietals, bring some education, and along with just some great new experiences around Texas wine.
It seems like we're still working on trying to get a lot of consumers to understand that we have a very thriving wine industry here. Trying to get our consumers to drink local, drink Texas. Why has it been so important for you in this organization to champion tasting here at home in Texas as opposed to trying to compare our wine industry with other wine industry across the country or across the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think identifying ourselves has been one of my biggest goals as a winemaker through my career. Creating a typicity around Texas wine, creating an identity around Texas wine is important because most of our consumers, they don't know about Texas wine. And the ones that do, they're still working from this old narrative that everything comes in on a tanker truck, which, quite honestly, it couldn't be further from the truth anymore. I mean, There's a lot of really great producers. There's a lot of wine being grown. And so I think it's important. And for me, my mission and my leadership around Texas Wine Growers has been, we need to promote the real story about Texas wines in Texas. Right. Like, it's great to know what people do in Chicago and taste some wines that people in Chicago or New York. But we've got millions of Texans that don't know we make really high-quality wines.
Absolutely.
And so my goal with Texas Wine Growers currently, and the mission that I think we're on, is to really focus grassroots at home and really get Texans drinking Texas wine. So I've got a slogan called, it's It's kind of my taglines. Drink Texas, Texas.
Drink Texas, Texas.
It's Drink Texas, Texas. And we want more Texans drinking Texas wine. And part of that is educating them to the reality of what we're actually doing. And not the old wives' tale or spin that they're hearing from other places. Just recreating or retelling the narrative and story that is what we're doing.
Okay. Now, I understand that we do get a lot of our grapes and all of our fruit from Texas High Plains. We also get a significant amount from the Texas Hill Country. Does the Texas wine growers represent all of those areas from the Texas High Plains to the Hill Country, West Texas, East Texas, all over the state?
Absolutely. Texas Wine Growers is here for everybody and anybody who is growing and making Texas wines. We've got some grower members on the east part of the state. We've got some grower members up north. Mm-hmm. We're working on a couple of wine operations that are up in the Texoma, north part of Texas, north central Texas, looking at coming on board. But we're here to represent anything and everything as it relates to true production in Texas wine.
Roger that. How about let's talk a little bit about your labels, your brand at Rivenburgh Wines. What you got going on there?
So Rivenburgh Wine, it's an adventure into all things Texas wine. So I work with very specific varietals to make my brand. So today we're pouring Vermentino, great Sicilian white varietal. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I feel like it should be growing just as much as we're growing anything else in the state. It grows like a weed. I mean, it really does well. The other wine we're pouring today is a 50-50 Malbec Merlot blend. Nice. And I love that because we're allowed to do things that are just unconventional here. Okay. We're not bound by any rules or any order, if you will. And so we should still very much be experimenting in our blends and our sets.
Okay.
I love my friends that make Bordeaux blends and make Burgundy styles, but I feel like if we're ever going to set ourselves apart, we need to really start paving the way around what we can do well, not necessarily re-emulating things from other places. So that's Rivenburgh Wine. That's the goals around Rivenburgh Wine. Now, Kerrville Hills Winery, which is also my brand, we are probably tied a little bit more into conventional nature, right? We're still making my flagship two varietals, Pico Blanc and Tannat.
Okay.
And you'll see some pretty standardized Texas things, if you will, right? So you'll see a lot of Sangiovese, you'll see some nice rosés, and so pretty simple wines, if you will, right?
Right.
The Kerrville Hills brand is built to be a quality wine at a value price.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
That makes complete sense.
Rivenburgh is a little bit different. It's a little cultish, if you will. Yeah.
All right. Now, I have heard about you wanting to use a lot of Tannat, and whenever Rivenburgh comes up, the word Tannat comes up. And I understand that's a varietal here in Texas that grows well. Not a lot of wineries are doing it, I don't think, maybe to your level of some others, but can you tell me why you've chosen Tannat as a grape varietal that you like to work with, and what kind of flavors and styles it presents?
Yeah, so I mean, Tannat, in my opinion, is, at least in the Hill Country region and Central Texas, I feel is probably one of the best growing and most sustainable operating fruits that there are. I started with Tannat early on when we founded Bending Branch Winery. So I'm one of the founders of Bending Branch. And quite honestly, it just grows well. It's easier to grow.
Okay.
And so like any other region in the world, if something grows well there, it'll make a really nice wine. So why bang your head against the wall trying to do something else?
Right.
I wish it was way cooler of an explanation than that, but it grows really well. It produces really nice fruit, which in turn produces really great wines. And so, yeah, we'll be making Tannat from here on out. And so flavor-wise, I mean, I'm a big tannin guy. We make some Tannats that are lush and fruity and light in tannin.
Okay.
We've got some protocols around making kind of a real young, fruit-forward Tannat. And then we've got our big brooding Tannat that's got to sit in the warehouse for 5 years before it ever sees the light of day. So we were going to bring a 17 Tannat today, but I couldn't get to it in the cellar. It was in the back of the cellar. We had some fermentation going, so I couldn't get to it. But it's one of those varietals that it's easy to make because it's easy to grow.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of wineries having really good success with it.
Cool. So where do you see the Texas wine industry and the Texas wine growers moving forward here in the next few years? What's your vision of the organization moving forward and kind of expanding on what we got going on here in the Texas wine industry?
So, one, I think the sky's the limit for the Texas wine industry. If we can start to really get ourselves on the same page, right? I'm a firm believer that you wouldn't go to Bordeaux and ask to drink wines from Spain. You wouldn't do that, right? You wouldn't go to Napa and ask to drink wines from Paso Robles. You wouldn't even do that inside their state. And so I feel like those of us that are on the front end of history are the front of the spear of something that may not be the most popular mindset, but I truly feel that in 100 years, 10 years, 5 years, that's going to be the thing that matters. As we continue to educate consumers, around the reality of what's here, I think the sky's the limit. And I think we show that every time we have one of these events. You've got people walking out of here with huge smiles going, God, we never knew there were all these great Texas wines here. Mm-hmm. And it's scary, but it's also heart-filling at the same time just to see people leave with smiles and going, man, I'm not going to drink that, I'm going to drink local now, And so I think that's on the bigger picture for the wine industry. I think we're on a really great trajectory around where we could go as a multiple region state. I'm a firm believer that we need to be promoting ourselves as multiple regions, not just one state. Because I think the things that they can do in the high plains, we can't do in the hill country. And I think some of the things we can do in the hill country, they can't do in the high plains. I certainly feel like there's stuff in East Texas around some of the... I personally feel East Texas should be the sparkling, should be Champagne of Texas. Because the Blanc du Bois and making sparkling down there, I think would be lights out. So I think as you see the Texas wine industry grow, what you're going to see from Texas wine growers is a big push around promoting and developing and helping to promote regions in Texas so they can stand on their own and highlight regions of the world, just like, every other place on the planet. I mean, we're bigger than France, for goodness sakes, right? And for us to say that we make one, we're one state, which is great, but you have an opportunity to make wines from all these beautiful regions with different styles, flavors, different terroirs. And I think that's what you're going to see from Texas wine growers is the continual push to identify and strengthen Texas terroir, Texas AVA, and Texas typicity and the authenticity.
John, thank you so much for joining us here on the Texas Wine Scene. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing what the Texas Wine Growers has to do here in the future.
Hey, thanks, Mike, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you for what you're doing, man. We, as producers, we can't thank you enough for the work you're doing to highlight us all in one place.
Cheers.
Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
We are here in Marble Falls at the Texas Wine Growers Tasting. I'm with Mr. Mike Nelson, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the winery that he's representing.
Yeah, so I'm with Astris. We're in Stonewall, Texas, just right by the Pedernales River, by the LBJ Schoolhouse and the LBJ State Park. We were founded in 2015, started making wine then with John Rivenburgh, who at the time was with Benning Branch. We followed him then to Kerrville Hills. We opened our tasting room in 2018, planted 7 acres of vines then, and then 5 additional acres in 2019. So we have 12 acres under vine currently. And a tasting room that, opened in 2018, and we've added on to it since then. We have our production facility on site as well. And,
Have you been the original winemaker since the property opened, and how did you get into wine?
Since the beginning, yeah. So we got into wine originally. My parents actually moved out to the Central Coast of California when I was like a senior in college. And so my wife and I would go and visit them all the time. And, you run out of things to do as a family. So
Sure.
What else? Go taste wine.
Drink some wine.
And so it was wine tasting a lot and just realizing, from that side of the bar, seeing the people pouring and their passion and how cool, it seemed like this dream scenario. It was like, in the back of my mind, it's like, man, someday when I've made it, I want to be a winemaker. Like, I think that would be just the coolest thing. And that was kind of the start of it. And then, we started tasting wine in Texas. My father-in-law in particular was very passionate about the Texas wine scene and how cool it would be to be involved in that. And so after meeting John, after tasting some wines that, you saw the trajectory of the Texas wine scene just going up and up. Like you're tasting better and better things, varietals that I was not familiar with.
Sure.
You see Tannat popping up. You see Morvet or Cinsault or Counoise or whatever. And it's just like, man, I've never even heard of that. And it tastes phenomenal.
Yes.
So it got the wheels spinning of, the Texas wine industry has been around for a while, but maybe people just haven't tried the right varieties. and the promise of what Tannat could bring to Texas, or what Mourvedre would ultimately bring to Texas. Really, that was kind of the driving force behind our getting into the industry.
Okay. I've been following a number of Texas wineries across the state, and I've been following you guys, and I know you guys have been doing some big things. You guys won some awards for some big wines. Can you talk a little bit about some of the varieties and some of the awards you've won here in the recent past that our consumers need to know about?
Absolutely. So I think the first and foremost is Chazal. We were selected by the Texas Monthly Vintners Cup as one of the top 12 wines of the year. We also received an honorable mention in the same publication for our 2023 Stello blend, which is a blend of Clairette Blanche, Roussanne, Marsanne, and Picpoul Blanche. So it was really cool to have 2 out of the 30 kind of top wines of the year. That was very cool. We got some great publicity for that. Went up to Dallas to accept the award. They gave us a really cool belt buckle and a cool certificate. So yeah, very psyched about that. But yeah, we've done very well in competition. We got like 6 golds in the San Francisco Chronicle competition last year, which was cool because they send you a plaque that kind of lists the awards that you get. And so there were so many golds that they only included the golds on our plaque. So it's like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, we're just super excited. We're nearing the end of harvest right now, so we have a few lots to press out, and then we'll be done with this year's vintage. 24 vintage is shaping up really nicely. Our estate fruit in particular, I'm very excited about. That we barreled that down a couple weeks ago and haven't stopped thinking about it. How it was lush, And when a wine is really good 3 weeks after you make it, it's going to be really good 2 years after you make it. So I'm very excited about that.
Is there any particular grape variety you like to work with personally as the winemaker? Is it the Sousal, or is it any other grape varieties that you can talk about?
Honestly, it's Tannat.
Okay,
it is Tannat. Yeah, Tannat is kind of the just all-star kid. It's super. Like in the vineyard, it's not too vigorous. It's not too susceptible to like disease or fungus. Like it's very resilient. In the cellar, it's very easy to work with. It doesn't. The chemistry never gets too wonky on it. So even if you push it up to 25, 26 bricks, you're still dealing with something that's like 3.7, 3.8 pH, which is awesome. Some stuff we get from the high plains at that bricks level is like 4.4 pH, so that makes it a little more tricky. But Tannat I think is probably my favorite. Like our Hill Country Estate Tannat is just year over year. It's a pleasure to work with.
I talked to John Rivenburgh a little bit earlier, and I know he's a big Tannat fan. And I know coming out of Bending Branch, they do some Tannat over there. It seems like we're starting to hear more and more about Tannat, and it's gaining some ground. I'm excited to hear about that. Do you think that can be potentially one of those grape varieties, particularly from the Hill Country? And I don't know if it's growing any other location, but can it be a regional wine within the state of Texas?
No doubt.
Or can it be that Texas wine?
I think either. I think either. I think one of the kind of the clues to how good Tannat can be is the chemistry that you get when it's ripe. Like in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to make any adjustments based on like pH or whatever. It's ripe. You make the wine. You don't have to add a ton of acid or do things to kind of fix it. I think Tannat is like the closest thing that we have to that scenario. Okay. Year over year, like the adjustments are just minimal, if even anything. Okay. It ripens well. Like I said, it's like relatively easy to grow. Relatively just being, grapes are not easy to grow on their own, but when you're in that world, Tannat's kind of on the easier end of the spectrum.
Gotcha.
In the cellar, it performs well. It performs like you would expect it to. You don't have to make a ton of adjustments, like I said. I think it's got a lot of promise to be, whether it's a grape for the Hill Country or a grape for all of Texas, I think it's got a lot of promise.
What do you think is the vision for Ab Astris moving forward?
I think we just want to focus on the things that we grow and grow well. We love Clairette Blanche. It's our estate white varietal, so we're leaning into that. We did kind of a side project orange wine out of Clairette Blanche last year for my brother-in-law and his Mesa line. Okay. We're doing some Clairette sparkling this year, so I think that's going to be really exciting.
Nice.
We love Picpoul. We got a lot of great Picpoul this year. Tannat, Mourvedre, Chazal. I think we're we're sticking to our guns on, like, this is our program. We can do it the right way. We do it. It turns out the way we want it to turn out, and very excited about that.
Can you tell our listeners where you guys are located? What are your hours of operation? And where can they find you maybe on socials?
So abastriswinery.com is our website. You can order any of the wines off of there. Astris Winery, similarly on Instagram and Facebook, is where you can find us. We're at 320 Klein Road in Stonewall, Texas, just near the LBJ State Park and LBJ National Park. We are open Thursday through Monday, so Tuesday and Wednesday are the only days of the week that we're closed, but we're open from noon to 5 most days, noon to 6 on Saturdays.
Mike, thank you very much for joining us here on the Texas Wine Scene Podcast and taking the time to talk about your project here and your winery, and we look forward to seeing you down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm here with the lovely Michelle from Pontotoc Vineyards, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what they have going on at their winery.
Yeah, so we're Pontotoc Vineyard. We grow all of our grapes in the Texas Hill Country, so all in Mason County. Our farm is located in a small town called Pontotoc, Texas. It's located in between Llano and Brady. And Pontotoc was an old German mining community. It was founded in 1872. And everyone in that town pretty much died of typhoid fever. And it became a complete ghost town until our owners, Carl and Francis Money, they discovered this town. And in 2000, they bought an old German farmhouse there. They restored it, and they planted the first 5 acres of Tempranillo grapes in the Texas Hill Country. So that's where we grow our grapes, predominantly our Tempranillo grapes, and it's where our wine production occurs. And then in 2016, they opened our first Weingarten. It's in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's located on Main Street. We do all local wine, all local handmade food and picnic baskets. And we're very famous for our sangria.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there any other grape varieties that you guys grow there at your estate other than Tempranillo, or do you get some other grape varieties from other locations around the state of Texas?
So all of our other red varietals are from other farms, but all within Mason County. So really within 30 miles of our farm in Pontotoc.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you pouring for us today here at the Texas Wine Growers Tasting?
So we have our Smoothing Iron Mountain, which is a 100% Monastrell. More people know that as a Mourvedre, which is very commonly grown in the Hill Country. Okay. And then we have our San Fernando Academy, which is our red blend, predominantly Petite Syrah. Yeah.
And so of those varieties, what is your favorite you like to drink?
Ooh, definitely the Smoothing Iron Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit earlier about rosé and when is a good time to drink rosé and when you've been drinking rosé. So tell us a little bit about the rosé that you like to drink.
Yeah, so our rosé we released 2 years ago. Our newest vintage is a 2022, and we make our rosé with our Tempranillo grapes from our state farm. So it's a dry rosé, it's chilled, it's delicious, especially in 105 degrees summers of Fredericksburg, Texas.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what are your hours of operation there at Pontotoc, and when can our listeners come out to check you guys out?
Yeah, so our Main Street location is open Friday through Sunday. We open at noon and close at 8 on Friday and Saturday, and then we close at 5 p.m. on Sunday. We also have a newer location in High, Texas. We opened just last year, and we're open there Friday through Sunday from noon to 5.
Okay. Are there reservations required to come out to the tasting rooms, or you can just walk up and pretty much get it?
You can just walk right in. Yeah, we're a very casual environment. We're modeled after a traditional Austrian Weingarten, so it's very family-oriented. You can bring your kids, bring your dogs. We've got toys for the kids, open space for them to run, and dog treats. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much for
of
joining
course.
us here on the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. I look forward to coming out to one of the tasting rooms. I hadn't been out yet, but I look forward to coming out and doing a tasting with you guys there.
Well, we'd love to have you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
We are here in Marble Falls at the Texas Wine Growers Tasting, and I'm here with Mr. Colby here at Torr Na Lochs Vineyards. He's going to tell us a little bit about his company, his winery, and what he has going on there.
Yeah, so Torr Na Lochs is located in Burnett. We sit on the Llano uplift, kind of perched above Inks Lake and Buchanan Lake. The name Torr Na Lochs loosely translates to hills over lakes. It's a Gaelic term. The owners worked overseas, and the idea to build this winery came while they were living in Scotland. They had been wine tasting, doing some touring around Australia, and it was then they were looking around, kind of noticed that the terrain, the temperature, the weather was all relatively similar to some of the property they had here in Burnet. And so that was when they decided to start the winery, hence the name.
And how long have you been working with Torr Na Lochs?
I've been with Torr Na Lochs for about 2 years now. I started as the operations manager in May of 22. Currently, I'm working as the assistant winemaker. I still hold the role of operations manager. I kind of take care of a whole lot of things out there. I spend time out in the vineyard. I spend time in the cellar. I fix a lot of things. So I get to do it all. It's really exciting to kind of see every aspect of the winery and be able to be involved with it. Pickup parties, I'm always out there talking to guests. There's a lot of very rewarding things that come with being at this winery.
Okay, so as you have become the assistant winemaker, have you started to get dialed into any particular grape varietals that you like to work with personally as you continue in your studies, as an assistant winemaker moving forward?
I would say I usually tend to like to work with red varietals. We've got a few new varietals that I've been really excited that I've never worked with before. One of those is a Primitivo. It has made a wonderful, rich wine, something that's very different from anything we've really worked with before. So I think that was really fun to kind of see something new like that.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're pouring here for the consumers today?
So today we've got 4 wines. We have a white wine, which is our Lily's white wine, named in honor of one of their grandchildren. We've got a few wines that are named after the owner's grandchildren. The next wine we have is a Mourvèdre Rosé. The other 2 wines we have are 2 of our estate red wines. We've got our 2020 Syrah and our 2020 Malbec. That comes right from our vineyard, about 100 yards from the tasting room itself. It is 3 acres. The Syrah is about 1.5 of those acres. The Malbec's about 40%, and then we've got just a little bit of Petite Syrah that we will typically blend into our Syrah.
Okay. Is there any plans for expansion into any other grape varieties on the estate, or trying to get some other grape varieties from different locations around the state of Texas?
As far as the expanding our estate, we would love to, but in our location, one of our biggest problems tends to be water availability. We've got some wells. They haven't really been producing too well in the last couple of years, so that's really our biggest setback, or the biggest thing that's holding us back from expanding. We would love to maybe go for some Aglianico, kind of branch into some Italian varietals, maybe a white or 2, Roussanne or something like that. But at this point, it's kind of something in the future for now. As far as in the rest of Texas, we typically get fruit from the high plains. At this point, with our program, we're pretty satisfied with what we get from up there. As stuff kind of emerges in different parts of the state, it would be kind of cool to maybe work with some of that as well. But
have you guys finished harvest for this year? And if you have, what did harvest look like this year for your fruit coming out of your state or any other locations around the state?
Well, it's been fast and furious. Our estate harvest was kind of extended because we had a pretty mild summer compared to last year. So fruit kept hanging, and at the same time, High Plains fruit was starting to come in early. So there was about a week and a half where we were fermenting about 10 different things. All of our estate stuff, all the High Plains stuff coming in, which at one time we've only ever done about 2 or 3 concurrent fermentations. So it's kind of a lot going on at once, but it was all kind of over pretty quick. We've got a few things hanging that typically hang a little bit longer yet to come in, but at this point we're pretty well done.
As the assistant winemaker and a very integral part of the winemaking team, how often are you getting boots on the ground in the vineyards, testing the grapes, seeing their development, and getting ready for what you're getting ready to bring into the winery?
Well, I spend about 3 to 4 months of early mornings every day before we actually get to the point of harvest out in the vineyard, doing shoot positioning, leaf pulling. Me, alongside with Karen DeBerry, one of the owners. The vineyard really is her baby. She works shoulder to shoulder with me out there. along with a few of our wine club members and longtime employees as well. They spend a whole lot of time. They're really, we got a small crew out there, so it's just lots of days, doing all the things needed. So I get to be out there all the time. Coming up to harvest, we're going out and tasting almost every morning. It's a lot of work that leads to a nice result.
Sounds great. Colby, thank you very much for joining us here on the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. Wish you best of luck this upcoming winemaking season and look forward to seeing you down the road.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm here with three beautiful ladies here in Marble Falls at the Texas Wine Growers Tasting, and they're going to introduce themselves, and we're going to talk a little bit about wine from the consumer standpoint.
Hi, I'm Heather.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Kim.
Okay, Ms. Heather, we're going to start with you with those pretty eyes. Tell us, how did you get some information about coming out here and tasting this tasting here at the Texas Wine Growers?
Well, obviously my Facebook algorithm recognizes that I enjoy wine.
Okay.
and it put forth this opportunity. And so I reached out to my mom and my sister and I said, hey, we've got to go to this wine growers event. We weren't sure what we were getting into. But I am a member of a couple of wineries in and around the area, including William Chris.
Okay.
And so when I saw that they were going to be here, I thought it's got to be fantastic wine. So here we are.
So what drew you to being a wine member over at William Chris? What's the draw there? Was it the great wine, the great service? I've been a couple times, so I kind of know what's going on, but I want to hear from you.
For sure. They have a great atmosphere, and their wine is delicious, specialized kind of in the French wines. I like that they are pioneers in the Texas wine industry and really have taken that to new levels. I remember 10, 15 years ago, the Texas wine industry was like sweet wines. Nobody really liked it. But now it is really matured. And I live in the area. I live just south of Blanco. And so I find myself at wineries quite often.
Great. And so, Mom, how did they get you drug into this situation
Well,
to come out here and drink some wine?
They didn't have to drag very hard. They both live in the area, and this is a good opportunity to get to see them. So that was a draw right there. Heather obviously is becoming a connoisseur, and she's training the rest of us along the way. And I'm a good willing student to learn, impart all of her knowledge to me.
Are you a member at one of the wineries as well?
I am not. We just new to the area here.
Okay.
We came from more like Houston area, but it may be coming. You never know.
Yes, ma'am. I think you may be piggybacking off of her allocations, right?
Well, at least when I go to her house, I don't take wine. She has it
There you
already.
go. And how about yourself, Andrea? What got you into wine, and why come to a wine event like this?
Okay, well, I have 2 children, and they're age 20, and that's what got me into wine.
Yes.
But the reason I'm here is because my sister sent me something and said I signed us up for this, and I thought I was running a 5K, so I was really super excited to find out I wasn't doing a 5K, and that it was just only wine tasting. I know.
Well, you know there's 5Ks
I
specific to
I
wine.
do know that, and I thought that's what I signed up for because I have before, but today was not that day, thank goodness. So here I am, just enjoying with my sister and my mom.
Okay, fantastic.
Beautiful event, by the way. The food was great. The wine, we love it.
I would totally agree with you. Beautiful event. We're right here along the Lake Pavilion here in Marble Falls. Beautiful views, wonderful wines, and a great afternoon. Ladies, I would like to thank you so much for joining us here in the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. We look forward to seeing you down the road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am here with Miss Brittany here in Marble Falls at the Texas Wine Growers Tasting. And we're going to get a consumer review about this event and what she's got going on. Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Where are you from, Miss Brittany?
So I'm from just on the other side of Marble Falls, in between Marble Falls and Lago Vista. It's close by, but like Johnson City is the closest I thought. But I was super excited to hear about this Marble Falls one because that's even closer.
How did you hear about the event?
So I'm a member at Lost Straw. And they're here today, so they sent out a thing, and they said, hey, we're doing this event. It's a great opportunity. I said, sounds like a great opportunity, and it's closer to me than the winery, so why not try it?
Sounds good. Now, you are a member at Lost Draw. Can you tell us a little bit about why you joined Lost Draw?
Absolutely.
And what kind of, what drew you to their wine club?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I was in Fredericksburg a couple of years ago and we were staying there for the weekend. We were checking out of our Airbnb. I was looking for a place to just kind of stop on the way home, and Lost Straw was super close by to the Airbnb, and it happened to be open at 11 a.m. instead of 12, like most of the other ones. So we stopped by, and I had a tasting with Bernie, who I highly recommend. If you ever go there, please ask for her.
Okay.
She's absolutely amazing. I do every time I go there. I love her. And there's a lot of good Texas wine, right? There's a lot of wineries have good Texas wine, but the experience at Lost Straw was what drew me. And my friends and my parents, they're members at a lot of wineries, so I just kind of go with them places and enjoy. But Lost Straw, Bernie was the first one that was like, I need to join this winery and I need to come here often.
Now, is there a particular grape varietal or type of wine that you like to drink from Lost Straw?
So they have a welcome wine. This last pickup party was the first time they switched it up, but they have a welcome wine, which usually they pour as their welcome to the place.
Sure.
Pour, and it's called, I'm not gonna pronounce it great, it's a German word.
Okay.
But
you want to give it a shot?
I've practiced a little bit. It's called Gemütlichkeit.
Very nice.
And if you look on their bottle, it's beautiful, like what that word actually means in German. Basically it means welcome if you drill down, but the way they describe it on their bottle is great. So partially I like the story, partially I like the wine.
That's fantastic. Well, Ms. Brittany, thank you so much for joining us here on the Texas Wine Scene Podcast. Look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road in the future, and have a good event.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This was a wonderful event to attend. I really had a lot of fun visiting with some of the wineries and also some of the consumers that were present there in the crowd. If you missed this year's event, I would highly recommend that you attend future tastings for the Texas wine growers. The Texas Wine Growers is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting and protecting the integrity of Texas wine. They believe that Texas has the potential to be one of the great wine regions in the world, and they are committed to helping Texas winemakers achieve their full potential. They do this by educating consumers about the unique terroir of Texas and the importance of using 100% Texas-grown grapes in winemaking. They support research about Texas winemaking, promote Texas wine to consumers and policymakers, and advocate for policies that support the Texas wine industry. They believe that Texas wine is a unique and delicious product that deserves to be enjoyed by people all over the world. They are committed to helping Texas winemakers succeed and to making Texas wine the premier wine region in the United States. Well, that would do it for this week's episode. Thank you for joining me. I'm Mike Cole, your Texas Wine Scene correspondent, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Texas Wine Scene. Cheers. For more in-depth information on the wineries mentioned in this episode, visit the Texas Wine Lover website at txwinelover.com or the Texas Wine Lover app. There you will be able to find a vast amount of information about Texas wineries and wine-related businesses. You can also search for information such as maps of Texas wineries, Texas wine trails, a list of Texas vineyards, 100% Texas wineries, winemaker profile, and much, much more. So visit their website at txwinelover.com. That's txwinelover.com. Also, please leave me a rating and a review and share the podcast with all your